Well, happy Friday. I am back. If anybody follows me on social media, you might have seen that my time at Automatic has ended, but I decided to go ahead and keep on doing what I'm doing. So here we are. So, with that said, last week we kind of like did a speed build of a really generic WordPress website based on the templates that are included in the underscores starter theme, classic theme. And today I want to kind of like take that and move it forward with a little bit of a different vibe because I need to redo my own website now. Um, so I think that's what I'm going to work on. And so the idea was to be working more on styles this week rather than templates, but we will probably create a template just to maybe one, maybe two, I don't know, we'll see, to handle my homepage. And I'm not a designer. I never have claimed to be a designer, but I'm going to do my best. I have some color schemes and a logo that I created, and it's going to be a bit messy because I don't have any of that stuff organized into like a style guide or a branding guidelines or anything like that. But I don't know, maybe we'll actually create a style guide right on my WordPress site. So might be an interesting way to go. At least set up like a color palette and maybe install a font that would be fun and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my screen share. And there we are. So on the left is the admin panel for the site that I've been working on. And then on the right is my current very outdated homepage, which is it's just basically a single page that links out to some social media, but not Twitch. Apparently, I haven't updated this since I started actually, making some progress on Twitch streaming on a regular basis, and then some really old speaking engagements, which are no longer upcoming. These are all definitely in the past, and there have been a few since then. Perhaps I will get to add some more upcoming opportunities, but for right now, I think my goal will be to kind of brand this page out to match what I'm doing on this streaming endeavor of mine, and we'll just see what we can do. A lot of what I'm going to do today is going to be taking place in the WordPress site editor. I do not have, well, maybe I should. How about we do this? Just for funsies, let's go ahead and switch things up a bit. I am going to, instead of having Gutenberg deactivated, I'm going to switch over to running this on the beta. So to do that, I'm going to install the WordPress beta tester plugin. Carolina says FSE is perfect for one-page themes. It absolutely is, and I think that was actually the very first thing that I saw as we started to move into full site editing, was the opportunity to do one-off pages. I did a presentation, I don't even remember when it was, for WordCamp Santa Clarita in California. It was virtual because it was during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic actually. But I was able to create a landing page, and it works so great. Like I could make everything that I needed right there. So let's go ahead and figure out what we're doing here. Okay, we're going to start by getting up to the latest beta RC. I think we're on beta 1 now. So, or no, we're on RC. Sorry, I'm all discombobulated. Okay, so we're gonna move to beta, and I don't know, maybe we'll find some things to point out that are not current, like that are coming in 6.2. I'm still kind of going through all of the changes that are coming. I didn't have a lot of time to focus on that over the last few weeks, unfortunately. It's pretty unfortunate. But now I do have some time on my hands. So we brought to the kind of boilerplate welcome to WordPress 6.2, which will be updated with some imagery very soon as the final release comes together. And we're going to go into appearance and the editor. And the first thing you may notice, no more beta label. This actually tripped me up when I've been messing with this, because it's like that red little call out made it so obvious that that was where I wanted to go. So that's gone now, but now it's just editor. So a little bit of mental change to not have the red dot there to help me figure out what I'm looking at and where I want to go. So I'm going to make this a little wider. All right, so this is some stuff. Wow, I don't know how I feel about that bounce when you hover over. I guess it makes you aware that you've just entered the space, but it's got a little transition here. It's kind of, if you're not expecting it, you're wondering what's happening. But if you click on this, it should bring you into edit mode. We'll try that in a second. But first, let's just see what we're seeing here, because it is a little bit different from what you might be accustomed to. Not only in WordPress 6.1, but also in, I think even in Gutenberg that I've been using recently, this is a little different. So, so this is like the homepage template. I think it's an index actually, and it doesn't tell me what template I'm using. So that could be a piece of feedback. But if I click in here, then it's going to bring me into the edit mode, and this looks a lot like it always did. I can hover around and see all of my parts. I can open list view and see what blocks are in place on this template. And it does tell me what template I'm on. That's interesting. I was thinking that this would be tabbed, that there was going to be a list view and a outline view. I thought that was in the 6.2 demo. I'll have to go and check that out. All right. So what I think I want to do here is actually not edit this template. This would be the index. It's the fallback. What I want instead is to create a home template. So I'm going to go into the sidebar, which doesn't like go completely away anymore, which I love. I like that I can kind of navigate around and go into the templates that I want to change. You can actually do a bunch of changes in a single session and save them all at once. So we might see some of that as we go along today. So I'm going to go in here. I can hit the plus here, or I can go back into manage all templates like it used to be and add new from here. And you can see that all of my templates right now are being drawn right from the theme files, because they say speed block theme or speed build block theme, which is the name of the theme I was making. And they do not have a blue dot over this icon of a website. Once you edit one of these files or edit one of these templates in the site editor, then it's going to be using the edited version, but no longer calling anything from the file itself. And that would be indicated by a little blue dot that is kind of over, like up on the upper right, I think, of the icon. All right, so I'm back in this navigation view, and now we have this new add new template. I'm not sure if that's brand new, but it's new. And then I can make a front page. Whether or not that's the right choice is a huge debate in the WordPress space. Whether you would want to use a front page or a home page template. For my use case today, I'm just going to go with it. So what'll happen is once I've created this page, I can then use the Create Block Theme plugin to export it down to my theme files, and it should create a front-page.html template. So, so we're going to be trying to kind of replicate this design here with some modifications. Like I'm going to try to include some of my green and purple branding and some of my logo that's the fun JSON formatting of my website's name and my channel name. Let's see how we do. So first thing is I have a dark theme. So I probably want to start out by going into global styles. And anything that I do in global styles is going to save right out to the front end. So if you're on a live site, don't do this on a live site, basically. You want to be like in maintenance mode or something to keep your changes from all throwing out to the front end right away. But that's not a new thing. It's just the being careful with your branding and whatever on a live site. This is definitely not a live site. This is just a local installation on my computer. So I'm going to go into colors. Right now, if you see there are a couple things that are changing up here too. We've got settings here. This used to be like a cog or gear icon. That's now going to look more like a sidebar. And the reason is that once you're down into the actual sidebar, then there are a few different things potentially happening. I'm in the template tab now. If I go to the block tab, well, I'm not selected on a block. Here we go. I'm on a paragraph block now, and then you can see that there might be settings and styles, and those tabs would have those tabs would also have icons. So let's get let's try a block that actually has that. So now the gear has been moved down here into the block settings, and then here we have styles. Interesting design choice here. That the one of the reasons this was changed was to avoid having the gear in both places, but now we have styles in both places. So the one up here is global styles. The one down here is the block styles. And we can go in and see what options are available in this block. If I were to change the block settings here, it would only apply to this one single block. So if I change this background to be black and the text to be white and the link also to be white, and then I added maybe a paragraph. Actually, let's make that a heading. And I can just put my name. I don't even know my own branding. Okay, let's try from the beginning now. Let's see, we would want this to be curly brackets. I'm going to wrap my first name in quotes. Quotes. And now I can close that. And that's basically white space. That's basically my branding right there. So I've got a group block that has a heading block inside of it. Probably if I really wanted this to be right, I'd change that to be a cover block and then maybe center it. Okay. So, but if I wanted the settings that I made on this cover block, let's say, I gave it an overlay of black. I could change all these settings theoretically. Oh, it's not actually showing me the option. I should be able to apply globally. All right, well, forget that. We're not going to try to beta test WordPress today. That's not working at all. All right, so instead, I am now in global styles. You can see that based on the black highlight around this upper styles area. And I can start adjusting the global styles that are going to apply the whole across the whole site. So first of all, I definitely want to have this black background. So I've added that. So now you can see that the background has been made black. I can change the default text to be white, which I think is what I'd like to have. Now these are all just using the default colors for WordPress. If I wanted to create a color palette, which I actually probably should do, I wouldn't want to use these defaults. But just for demo purposes, because I'm just seeing if we can get through this pretty quick, we'll just try to keep it simple. All right, so that pretty well takes care of that. So if I save these settings, well, first of all, it's asking me what I want to save. Do I want to save my front page template, and do I want to save the custom styles under global styles? And I think yes to both. And now that I saved this, it was the front page template, which is like the ultimate homepage. You can't override it really, which is part of the reason that sometimes it's not the best way to do a homepage template, because I couldn't go in and change it to a static page if this file exists in my theme. But if I go to the front page now, that's all I have on it. Black background with that heading block on it. So being kind of a static kind of homepage, I don't know that I would include any template parts, although I will say that if I'm looking at, it's a little hard to see which window I'm on, but over on my old website, my current website, there are a couple things. I might create this Find Me Online actually as a template part, because maybe I want to use it in different ways across my theme in different templates. And maybe add to it over time and have those changes propagate out all over the site. You could also use a reusable block for that, but I'm kind of a fan of the template parts. If you want to put it into your post content, though, you're gonna want to use a reusable block instead. Upcoming appearances, that is another one. I don't know, maybe someday I can make that more dynamic so that as I get new speaking engagements or move things from future to past, that can all happen without my intervention. I think I see a couple questions. So one is a comment. I'll do this first. From, I think you said your name's Victor. So welcome, Victor. Front page looks like a concession to classic choice of listing archive or not, which people are used to, while the homepage is blank, but usually used for querying archive. That is true. So when used together, the front page will be the root page typically. You would create a page. You don't have to put any content in it. But if you have a front page template, then that's what's going to load at the root of your site. And then the home page template, somewhat counterintuitively, ends up being your posts page. And not actually the front page of your site. So it's a bit of a, it is a classic sort of idea. It's something that is just the way that the template hierarchy works, and it would be problematic to try to really change that. So what we can do from this point forward is try to figure out what the best practice should be to create these possible combinations of how your home and post page should be set up. There are a few different schools of thought on it. One would be that we should mostly just be using custom page templates and setting them at the published page level and then applying it to the reading settings. I don't know. I think your mileage may vary, just because you might want, if you're developing themes for distribution, if you're going to be sending your theme out to be used across a lot of different use cases, then perhaps one way would be better. And if you're working on a custom bespoke site, then you absolutely need to know that the homepage is always going to be what you created it to be. A front page template might be the right choice, because the client can't actually override that very easily. They could through full site editing, and they could actually go in and edit the template. Wouldn't change what's in the file, but it would change what's visible on the site. So, so moving on to the question, would front page then be most appropriate when you want something more templated that is only edited in templates versus edited as a page? Probably so. Although I'm writing a tutorial for the developer blog at developer.wordpress.org/news. It's not live yet, but basically I use the front template and the home template to create the approximation of a homepage that has a query loop with different formats on it. So like a big featured post at the top, two smaller featured posts, and then moving into the regular grid format below, or at least in my example, it was a grid format. But all just from the recent posts, no categories, filters, or anything like that. Just recent posts using offsets of the query, so that we got that. And then to link to the second page of the posts page with the same number of posts on the reading settings that would display in just the grid layout. And what that allows you to do is it's not truly a different pagination. It's kind of a workaround, but with a little bit of custom CSS in my theme, I also, this won't be in the tutorial, I don't think, but in my test run, I added a little bit of CSS and an extra paragraph block to kind of toggle that if you were on page 2 of your home page, which is the posts page, the home template, which is the posts page, then it'll show one link. And if you're on any other page, it would show the other link for next and previous posts. So if you're on page 2, it'll bring you back to the front page of your site. If you're on page 3, it would bring you back to page 2. So it's a little trickery, but hopefully it'll be cool. And I think that I might actually next week demo that whole thing, and including the CSS, so that I can show everybody that's interested what that actually looks like. I really, really wanted to use a block pattern for this. If you were here for one of my earlier streams, maybe 3 weeks ago, I tried to do something using a conditional in a hidden template part, and the template parts load too early. They load on the init hook, so it'll never work. I did some digging into it afterwards. It was kind of too bad, because I was hoping that I would be able to make it work. There are some things that you can do in a template part, or sorry, a block pattern. I'm saying all the wrong words today. There are some things that you can do in a hidden block pattern, because they are actually PHP files that are helpful in terms of they're helpful in terms of including things like dynamic images, or like you could include an image that then could be changed, or you might want to translate your theme strings, and in order to do those translations, you would need to be using patterns. And there are a couple of pretty decent examples of this in the default themes, 2022 and 2023, I believe, and I'm sure that there are. So at least for the translation, the internationalization of your theme strings, one that would show up pretty frequently, I think, would be like in the search block. If you have a search block in your theme, some of that stuff ends up being a text string in that block. So being able to translate it, you can't do that directly from the block in the file. Yeah, so Carolina says, oops, no post loops or globals in patterns. Yeah. I was so sad. If you were here, you probably saw me deflate once I realized it wasn't going to work. I didn't really look into the order that things loaded. I just kind of dived right in to try it, but whatever. It's all good. And you know what? As we talk about these things, maybe we can start to raise some awareness around what people doing this in the real world really need. So, and I think that being able to create some things that are a little bit more dynamic would be a thing. For example, pagination, what I'm going to do that tutorial on next week. Why don't we have a template and the template hierarchy for paged? Because if I was able to say home paged or something like that, I'd be able to have a separate template for my inner pages from my first page. That seems like at the WordPress level, this is not just block theming, but just at the WordPress level, that seems like it could be an interesting approach. When was the last time we introduced a new template to the template hierarchy? I don't even know. Formats, post formats. But then there are other limitations of block themes. So I have in my mind that I think I'd like to maybe consider digging a little bit more into hybrid theming that might fill the gap a little bit, that we can maybe use more template parts in classic templates. It would give us access to all of the template tagging and the conditionals and all of those things that those of us that have been around the theming world for a long time are familiar with and comfortable with, and that are not even really possible right now. So it could be good stuff. All right, I went down quite a rabbit hole there. So let's get back to making this site. This is a terrible introduction paragraph, but I am going to fly with it because I don't want to rewrite it right now. There's a very good chance that ChatGPT will come into play at some point in my redo of this page, because I don't enjoy talking about myself. So, all right. So this is all still in a cover block. I'm not entirely sure that's how I want it to be. I do want to get this image in. So I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between what is in the template and what is in the styles. And right now I'm primarily focused on what goes into the styles at a global level, at the top level, that would then trickle down into every other template on the site. All right. And if you have questions, or if I'm too confusing, or if you hear me say something that's just outright wrong, please go ahead and put something in the chat, and I will rectify the situation. All right. So I just pasted that over here, and none of this is set in stone. I don't actually think I want this cover to be here at all, because I don't think it needs to be a cover block unless I was going to put an image in it. It doesn't want to move. Darn. All right, we're going to do it the hard way. All right, we're going to insert after. I'm actually going to make it a row. That's what I'm going to want is two things next to each other in the row. I could also do columns. I don't know if that's better or not. It might be if I want it to be a 50-50 split. All right, changing my mind. We're making that columns. I'm going to go back into the block. Templates, 2 columns. And now with those 2 columns, what I can do is maybe drag this group down into the first column. That's a little better. Okay. I don't need the row anymore. It's really kind of hard to know when a row and columns are going to be the better choice. So I don't know that I've completely sorted that out for myself. There's probably some math involved that I'm not prepared to figure out right now. So slower. So Carolina said to go slower. I am in a rush today. Yeah, I'm also not very patient with trying to get the blue line that is slightly obscured by the actual block to be just in the right place. It has gotten so much better than it was originally. If anybody's feeling really passionate about pushing forward a feature, this is one I would love. I want to be able to not only move blocks up and down within the place in the hierarchy that they are now. I want to be able to move them in and out into the hierarchy. So I don't know exactly how that would work, but it's something that I've seen a lot. It would help with the dragging and dropping problem for me personally. I've never pursued making an issue for it or anything, but All right, so now I'm going to add an image. I wonder if I do not think I have this image already. All right, we're gonna find my picture here. I don't know where it is. Did I might have put it in here? I think I saw it recently as I was wandering around my very disorganized file structure. All right, there we are. All right, well, that's actually not too bad. What do you all think? So here's another little comment, tip. Copying blocks might be easier sometimes. Yeah, that's true. And the cool thing about copying blocks is you can actually copy them between sites. It's not just within a single site. Of course, any references to the old site will still be there after you copy it. So you want to be careful of things like image references and such. But it's pretty cool. So here's another thing though. If I were to, I'd have to log in. I don't want to do that. All right. If I were to copy the block from this site over to this site, there's this cool thing to like upload the image. Somehow I missed that becoming a thing. I always used to use plugins to try to get remotely stored images imported. All right, so now I said I was going to make the Find Me Online thing into a template part. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I'm going to start blank. And I can say, oops. Icons. I do have it below. It looks like it's kind of below. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. I don't know exactly how I had this set up. This site I think is using 2022 as the base. It's just a single page template on the 2022 base. So, all right. So this is my template part. I can use the social icons. And then I can start adding some icons. I could say I want to add in WordPress. And what is happening here? Okay, this is irritating me. Okay, we are going to oh my goodness. All right, I've got to actually group this, I think. So in order to like not have your site go full width on you, you end up having to add wrapping group blocks. A little more than I really would like. I guess it makes sense. If you were in a classic theme, you would be putting wrapping HTML around different sections of your site. But for some reason, I don't like to have to take that extra step. I feel like something should be happening for me there or something. And that actually did not solve my problem at all. I was trying to get it so that this wasn't off the screen. That seems like a bug. I don't know. Okay, I can add a GitHub. What else? YouTube. All right, well, that's 3. So I've got the icons there. They probably won't show up on the front end because they don't have links in them, but the icons are there ready to be configured. Okay. So let's look at what we need to change at the, actually I want my social icons to always have the same styling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the global styles area, And then I'm going to go into blocks. And let's see what our options are to globally style the block, the social icons. Why are these not in alphabetical order? Social icons, okay. And now I can choose the way I want these to look every time I use this block. So our options are, we have a couple of style variations. We could do logos only, and we could do pill shaped. Looks like I can't unselect it. Oh, I guess it did unselect it. Okay, never mind. It did unselect it. Okay, so the styles available to me are in the colors and the layout options. So in colors, I can choose a background. Oh, that's the background for the entire social icons block. So I don't want to do that. And then I can choose layout. So I can choose like block spacing, margin, padding. But it looks like I thought you could set the colors at the social icons block level, but it looks like maybe I'd have to set it here. Nope, that's not right either. Okay. It's not very useful. Let's see what happens if I go into the settings for the actual block. Yeah, I can set the icon color here and the icon background here. But it's not something that there's no UI for me to set these things at the global styles level. I think it's because the icon color and icon background are not the core color and background options. I'm pretty sure that's the reason. Huh. Yeah, I kind of understand why this is a problem. I wish it wasn't, though. I don't know why we couldn't have just used color and background here in this block. If anybody knows the answer to that yet, shout it out via text in the chat box. All right, so I think this is a pretty close to the purple that I'm using. It isn't exactly the purple I'm using. I should have grabbed my colors from somewhere before the stream. So we'll just do the best we can. So what I could do if I wanted to here is go back into social icons, make my icon color. Ooh, that is awful. We will not be doing that. But you can kind of mix and match the colors the way you want. And if you apply it to the social icons block, then it'll apply to all of the icons that are in that block. We're going to go back to white and purple for right now. And then I think I've decided I really don't like this down below. So what I'll do is I'll pull it into the column. Or maybe it will disappear. Oh, it's the wrong column. It's strange that it goes to the top. Okay, I did not add a title to this, so let's add another block inside of this template part. I want to go into the group. I actually don't need the group now because it's in a columns block. Let's see. I'm going to do insert after. I could have done insert before because I actually do want it to be before. Heading, find me online. I'm going to be enthusiastic about it. Exclamation point. Okay. So that is basically not it, because I forgot to add the URLs to this. That's very funny. Okay. So we've got WordPress label, and what I need to do actually is add in the address for let's see, profiles.wordpress.org. I don't remember if there's anything else in the middle of that or not. We'll test it. And then we have GitHub URL and my that's it. And then I could keep adding. It's all right. It's kind of wide. Maybe I want to fix that. I still have all this in the cover block. Oh yeah, I gave up on getting out of the cover block. But because it's in the cover, I might be able to, nope. All right, let's try doing that as a group. Oh, it did do what I wanted it to do. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so I can add the group here. Over here, I want to say inner blocks use content width, and that's going to bring the width down to the settings that are in my theme.json file. And then I can go into this inner block, and then I can change this to be wide width, which is a lot closer to what I think I'd like it to be. So, all right. And we need to add some space to the top of this. But that is the template. Now, most of what I've done so far has actually been in the template and not in the global styles. Does anybody know what happened to my social icons? Where did they go? Oh my goodness. That's kind of irritating. It's like the template didn't save. The template part didn't save. What happens if I reload? There they are. Huh. That's also not the way it's supposed to work. So what should have happened is when I did the multi-entity saving, it should have both saved my template part and also kept it visible. There should not be any caching on this site. It is just a local WP install, except JavaScript likes to do that sometimes, so it might be a React sort of thing. I don't know, but reloading it did fix it, so I guess whatever works. Okay. So what should I do now? So let's try to go through a little bit more in global styles. So we'll just kind of walk through what you can do from here. There's I worked on a documentation thing in the block editor handbook that's a table of the styles in theme.json, what version they came to WordPress in, and also whether or not they're available in the user interface. It's not perfect. It's also not live yet because, Ryan, you're a requested reviewer on this PR that I submitted yesterday. If you'd like to take a look at this, I put in Markdown table instead of an HTML table, and the parser that sends it out to the WordPress site ate it. So all the page has now is a title. It didn't even pull in the paragraph. So I guess it got cleansed. Yes, Ryan has been called out. All right. If you say hi, I will use your name, just for the record. All right, so let's go through some global styles. If this theme had any variations, I would be able to access them from this A block here. We don't have any variations files on this theme because it's pretty bare bones. We can go into typography and see what our options are here. So in typography, we can change these elements. We can change text, links, headings, and buttons. So within text, we can then drill in and change some things about our typography, size, appearance, and line height. We don't have any fonts declared, so for demonstration, let's do that. Let's get a font in here so that you can see a little bit more of what would be potentially available to you. The easiest way to do this is to see a big warning about font families and such. That's not good. All right, let's see if we can add something and make that go away. I just chose a random font here. So we're going to add that to our theme, get a whole bunch more errors. I think that the plugin authors need to spend a little bit more time on testing, but it does actually install it. So that's not the way it's supposed to be. Go back into our front page here. And now if I go into global styles, let's see if I see that font show up. There it is. So we have default, which is in this case just going to be the browser default. I don't have a native font stack or a system font stack in my theme JSON, but we also now have access to this font. And you can see that this changed over here once I set it as the font for the text. Don't ever use all uppercase fonts for your copy. It's a bad idea. Oh, Carolina just suggested checking my PHP version. That is possible. I did not actually look at that very carefully. Okay. I have kind of a strange computer set up here, and my trackpad is not behaving very well today. Look at that, PHP 8.19. Let's go down. Let's go down. I'm not sure if 8.0 is also a problem. But I'm pretty confident that 7.4 will work. Yeah, it is very easy to change your PHP version in local. Not so simple depending on your web host if you're on a production environment. But for today, I will take it. All right, well, we'll go ahead and reload this just because I did make that big change. All right, back into global styles. I would think I was about to say don't use an all uppercase font for your copy because it's awful for accessibility. So just my suggestion. I'm not an accessibility expert, but it is a lot harder for the human brain to parse text that doesn't have good capitalization in place. All right, so let's keep going through this. So we have text. Stuart says that he was getting some 503 arrows on local and drop down. Yeah, so 503 arrows. I don't know if those would happen with just core, but with plugins they certainly could. So I know that there's a whole team of people working on getting everything in core up to speed on being ready for the newer PHP versions. They seem to be coming faster than they used to, I think. All right, so we can change our size of our font for our main text. I don't have anything set for these sizes in my theme JSON. So I think I've run into problems with the way that this nice small, medium, large, extra large thing works. It seems like a really great idea on the surface, but if you create font sizes in your theme JSON and you put them out of order, they will also be out of order in this little table, or at least the last time I tried it, they were. So it's a nice user interface sort of thing, but it's not very precise. So one thing you can do to be more precise is switch it over to a custom size. So that should, in theory, also change my text. I don't know that it did. Huh. That's interesting. Appearance is going to be a combo sort of thing. It'll get both your font weight and your font style. So you'll get like thin, extra light, light, regular, medium, semi-bold. And then I think that if there are like italics and mainly italics, I guess, then you would see your italicized options kind of interspark, and it would give you more options that you could switch between. I'm not sure why my stuff didn't change here though. So when I change the typography, it changes. But maybe this only has a single size? No, I don't think so, because the headings are bigger. That's strange. Will M's work? Line height's working. I need to start making a list, I think. Who knew that I was going to be filing bug reports? Okay, the first one that I saw, the first bug that I encountered was the social. It was like the pop-up for inner blocks. Was showing off screen. And then now I have the font size is not working in global. Let's try it with the default font and see if it is any better. Nope. And if I select it at the block level, oh, go back to the block styles. Okay. It works there. So it's just in the global that it's not working. Huh. Fascinating. Let's try one more thing. If I go into a paragraph block. Aha. Oh, these must have fallback sizes being declared by WordPress. So it works if I set it at the paragraph block level, but not at the global level. Interesting. All right. We can do all those same things for links with the addition of decoration. So if I wanted to have no decoration, I guess that's what that dash means. Underline or strike through. I can do that, and it's right now I'm in links, so it's not showing up because I don't have any. Oh, there's some links, so you can go back in there. You can underline your links. Yeah, so here's a comment. I'll throw it up on the screen. About having trouble with fonts. So yeah, I think that your font is going to be at the very least, it's going to be dependent on what's available in that font family in your files, and then the TTF or the WAF, the file format that's being used. I think that there are some different browser implications, browser support implications with some of them. Carolina, I think you mentioned, if you're still here, what the best of the font file types was. I feel like I saw you say something about that somewhere along the way. I think it was WAF or WAF 2, maybe. I'm not sure. So WAF 2. Okay. So WAF 2 has the best support across the board, but it may or may not be available for the font you want to install. And I would say that you probably do ultimately want your fonts to be pulled in via theme JSON, and best practice right now, at least partially because of GDPR and similar, is to have those be hosted somewhere that you control, because you don't want third-party cookies being collected on your visitors, because you end up being on the hook for that. That's kind of just the way the internet is these days. So I do want to demonstrate this, though, when it comes to those fonts that are in the fonts that are added by the Create Block Theme plugin. If I go into my files here, you can already see that it's being shown as modified. If I go, that's a Git thing, by the way, because I sync this all up to my GitHub repo each week, or most weeks. If I go into my theme.json file, you can see that this has actually been added to the theme.json. It is not just a database level things. Yeah, and the Caroline said that the plugin is only downloading the TTF. So it could be that maybe if I also downloaded the WAF 2 and fixed that here, it might solve some issues. What I would do, this would be my workaround for this, is I would use Create Block Theme to get it going. I would probably go back to Google, download the files that I wanted, if they aren't actually present, which I assume they're not. Assets, fonts. Yeah, it's just the one. And it is the TTF. Install it, add the file here, and then update the theme JSON, because then I didn't have to write all of that JSON. I'd only have to change to, I'd only had to change a reference here and there. So it's nice. So Carolina says, it's nice of the plugin to handle the complicated nesting for fonts. Absolutely true. I have run into an awful lot of errors lately, and I haven't had time to dig into them or report them, but I will try to. I don't know. We'll see if I have the time to put into it. And then Kyle says that you can't download WAF from Google either. I think that I feel like I have gotten different formats, but I don't know which ones. So It's been a minute. At the very least, this is a really great way to get it started. And also, this is another tip. If you have the font file that you do want to use, you can use the other option. Hold on, let me get in here. I'm having mouse problems here. Where did it go? All right, back in here, if I go into Appearance Manage Theme Fonts, and then I do an Add Local Font, I can upload the files that I have, give it the definitions that I know are right for it, and then upload local fonts to your theme. They don't have to be pulled directly in from Google. So that's what, as I'm thinking through this more, if I really wanted that other file format, I would probably get it first and then add it this way. It would have the same end result with a few less steps. All right, edit. All right, we'll go back in here. Let's do styles. Let's go into colors. So colors are pretty straightforward. You can go in here and add custom colors to your palette if you want. They'll show as user colors or custom colors when you go to use them. Let's see if that actually shows up here. I need to move around here. You can't see both things at the same time. Yeah, there's the custom. So if it were coming from the theme, it would say theme. I'm not sure if the Create Block Theme plugin will convert these custom colors to theme colors or not. All right, here's a great resource. Carolina says that this is a resource for getting different font formats. So probably if you're in chat, you probably can actually click on that. Thanks for that. That's great. All right. Layout. So this is kind of a different sort of thing. So most of what's in Global Styles is going to be in the styles section of your theme.json file. There are a couple of notable exceptions to that. One is all of your color palette gradients. If you add options there, those are actually going to end up in the settings section and presets. So like if I change this here, oops, let's just make it something crazy like, I actually set it to wide. So in order to see it happen, you'll have to do that. So I can change it to 1600, which would probably be wider than you would want. And it'll change it. Anywhere that's using the defaults from your theme.json will be updated. And if I save this, if I use Create Block Theme to export these settings down to theme.json, then that'll get updated. And these numbers will be in your settings section and not in your styles section. The padding, block spacing, all of that will still be in styles. So for the most part, you're not doing settings in global styles, but there are just a couple of exceptions to that. You can't add unit types, units of measurement types from in here, and you can't do any supports from in here. So if you're wanting to enable or disable a theme support, you will have to do that right in your theme.json file. There are some new things. I want to see if I can find them. Button. Maybe Button has it. Okay, here's a cool one. So we have a couple of new things. Did this just get added? I did not have, oh, no, outline is the one that's missing. Okay. Not the outline style variation, but the outline, the CSS option. So we can set borders in here. Right now, it looks like the only thing that's available on this one is the radius. I don't have a button here. Actually, we can do this. This is super, super, super helpful if you are creating a theme and you want to know how your changes are going to impact every block on your site. This is a style book coming to WordPress soon. And I think it's a really good start towards unit testing a new theme. Not every option. It doesn't do all of those breaking things like our unit test for theme review. Like if you have like a ginormous image, or I don't know, Carolina probably has this memorized, a really, really long title, or non-English characters, or any of those kinds of things that might be edge cases, but still should be considered if you're going to create a theme that's going to be distributed. You probably won't get that here, although that would be a cool extension, like break my site. It could be a tab. But as far as like regular use case stuff, you can go a long way here. So let's find, here's a button. So if I go, I'm in the button styles and I can see some buttons on the screen here. So if I wanted to say, I want all my buttons to be this obnoxious pink, why is it not selecting them? Oh, maybe I'm not. Oh, I have to change it in the background, not in the palette. Okay, so I can make the background pink. I can make that unreadable. I'll do that white. Headings. Why would button have headings? Can you do a button that has a heading level? You're learning today that I don't know everything. So if you didn't already know that, I'm not keeping it a secret from anybody. Why? Carolina, did you just admit that you introduced a regression? That's funny. Okay, I'm not going to look into this any further. You shouldn't be able to set styles on set heading styles on a block, on a button block. All right, I'm not crazy. I'm going to move on. All right. So, oh, this is an interesting thing. So we have this element for buttons now. Let me see. Let's get back to buttons so we can see the button widget here. That doesn't apply here. If you have, so there's a button widget and a button element. They are not the same thing. So you may find that if you have a button that is just a button element in the HTML, it may not behave the same as the button and buttons blocks. So I haven't looked into that. It actually just occurred to me that we have a potential naming thing. Naming things is hard. That will be forever true across the universe. But if I pull up the button block again, maybe I could set the, that's interesting. I'm not getting any typography on that. Can I change it at this level? Oh dear. Maybe I broke WordPress. I'm not sure. Fonts are not working terribly well right now, so I'm not going to keep trying to hit it with the bigger hammer right now. But I could potentially keep working on other things. So some things are in the buttons wrapper block, and then other things would be in the button singular. So I could add a box shadow here. There are just a few default options that don't really work very well against a black background. So, but you could declare some natural or some other options in your theme JSON. I could change the border radius. That looks a little cooler. I like that. All right. What else do we have? Maybe adjust the padding a bit. But as you can see, as we make changes in global styles, we can see them in real time in this style book. And then we can actually save them. And then they get pushed into global, they're applied global styles at the database level. And then we can use Create Block Theme to export them to our files. So, you know, we could go through every block. Every block should have whatever UI options for the style controls that they support. That might not be entirely true. I think that there's still some work to be done in unifying all of that. But for the most part, you're going to see pretty good parity there. Now, what else could we look at? Well, let's go ahead and export some of this and see what our theme JSON looks like. Maybe that's a good way to wrap this up as we're coming up on the hour-and-a-half mark pretty soon. Tools, not tools, appearance. I don't know why I always think that should be in tools. Okay, and what I want to do is overwrite speed build block theme. If you're ever nervous about using this, you could actually use the clone option, which then will create it as a new theme. It will not activate it. So, but all of these things, I think, are gonna slurp in the user changes in with whatever it does. Okay. All right, let's go back to VS Code now. And let's see, we're going to just go down the file. So one thing is that it will, one thing is that it's going to order your sections alphabetically. So, so you can see these things that are usually at the top when you first create your file get pushed down to the bottom, which is fine. Oh, this looks like it might have gotten fixed. Or no, actually, this was I did this PR, or I helped with it at least, that it's going to use the version that's appropriate for your WordPress install. So this is using the theme JSON for WordPress 6.2 and not from Trunk. So I have there's some documentation stuff that would be cool to get updated around this, that we mostly reference the Trunk version of the schema when it's safer. If you're not using Gutenberg, you're better off using a version specific schema and then updating it as you go along. It doesn't need to always be up to date to the latest version of WordPress. It needs to be up to date to the in order to provide you the helper features of having a schema when you're editing the code. So it's not critical to the functionality of the file though. All right, so within settings, we can see there's my custom color I added to the palette from within global styles. So you can see now that if we reload this now, this should show as a theme color rather than a custom color. We can go check that out. Layout's still there. we can see that my typography presets have been added. This was done by the Create Block Theme plugin and not by Global Styles. So that's kind of like a separate thing. So that is still adding the presets so that we can use them. And that's it for settings. And then under styles, it should include everything that we said. It's doing some things for us that we don't have to think about as far as how the variables are structured. This is not the only way that you can pull in this variable, but it's the one that Create Block Theme is using. So we set on our core button block, we set a border radius of 10 pixels. We gave it a background and a text color. We gave it a shadow preset. Notice when we were up in settings, we did not have any shadow presets declared there because the shadow presets that we used are actually core fallbacks. So they don't get registered. And then we have some spacing that was all pulled in as a preset for padding. And then we have our buttons, block styles. We have our main typography is set here. Or no, that's actually just in the buttons block. So even though we weren't seeing these changes take place, they were actually there. So they did get copied into Theme.json. I'm curious if we go in again now with these pulling from here, if they actually do work better in the UI. And then we have our template parts that shouldn't have been updated at all. So that's the basics. I mean, there's a lot more you can do in here. You can go pretty deep with Theme.json as far as how you can nest things within things and get quite a lot of control over your styling without writing CSS. There are some things here that have not been fully realized yet. So let me see. I'm gonna try something. I want to see what happens if this is like a Create Block Theme sort of experiment here. I want to try some custom CSS. I think you have to enable it here. And then I could say, I don't know if this will work. No. There we go. We got some red text. If I save that, let's see if Create Block Theme has caught up with this. Parents overwrite. This will be the last thing we do today. Let's see, where is VS Code? Here we are. Oh, look, there it is. There's our CSS right there. So the CSS gets written to the Theme.json file when you export it. I love that so much. It seems like it could get a little gnarly if you have a lot, so I would use it very sparingly. But theoretically, you could also write it inline right in this file with this property. So cool. Well, I don't know if I covered everything that I intended to cover. I certainly am not ready to push that that homepage live, but it seemed like as good of an example as any to build off of today. I do see a question before we shut it down. Is there a single resource for Theme.json with every single setting and property available as a guide somewhere? Woof. Not exactly. There is the best resource is actually the schema. but it's not going to give you every single possibility. But it will at least give you some clues about what can happen. So like if I wanted to add another color in this palette here, I could start typing, and it's going to help me. Build it. But that's a VS Code thing, and not really so much a WordPress thing. So yeah, this is a good tip. When you're this is mentioning local for dev instance, and doing an export before overriding with create block theme. So that would be what it's basically backing up before you overwrite your stuff. You could also just duplicate your folder or export the entire theme. And then there are lots of ways that you could go about doing the same thing. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining me, everybody. I honestly don't know how long I'll be continuing these streams, or how regularly I'll be able to do it. But for right now, for as long as nothing's changing, I'm going to try to stick with weekly. Yeah, and next week we'll do that homepage trick. That hopefully the blog post will be up too, so I can refer there, and then I'll add in the bits about adding the pagination links. So thank you so much for coming, and let me know if I can be of any help. If you have ideas for things that I could stream about in the future, please let me know. I'd love to hear. So thanks, everyone.